Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Chuck Investing. All right, let's do the weekly log. So I'll keep it quick. Here on NQ, you can see that we had a pretty bullish week. Okay, so immediate rebalance into this bullish order block that we formed last week, and then rose higher. You can see that this high right here looking pretty juicy, still intact. We took out this weekly candle's high. Want to see if it can come and take out this high next, especially after giving a very bullish weekly candle like this. I think going into next week, you probably have the wick forming like by having an immediate rebalance here, maybe coming somewhere like into the constant encroachment of this wick right here. Wouldn't be shocked to see something like that, where you can come maybe around this level and then run higher, right? Or if you stay in the upper half of this wick and continue running higher, that'll obviously show even more bullishness. And then we can come and fill in the rest of this weekly SIBI here, right? Because this is the real SIBI, but this is this part right here is the one that stayed open. So I want to see if we can reach up for that. Also on ES, we had a complete inversion of this weekly SIBI, which is also showing us bullishness. So now I'd like to see us come back in sight. And it'd be interesting to see how the market continues to perform. I mean, there's relatively equal highs up here. So if we continue higher, I mean, that's exactly where my eyes are going to be at. But everything that's going on, the macroeconomic environment, I don't know. I'm not super confident that we can have that, but it'll be interesting to watch. Sorry, just updating these since we started a new week. Okay. Now on the daily, you can see that starting Monday here, pretty lackluster day, right after forming a daily fair value gap and taking out these relative guys over here. Price, just kind of stayed in this kind of range really pretty much. We took out the candle's high, wicked, and then closed back in it. And then we created a daily bullish order block. But following on Wednesday, we actually had a slam lower, taking out a lot of the relative equal lows that you'll see here on the 4 hour. And then came into this daily fair value gap, Bessie, but then stayed there long and actually, immediately expanded higher. So creating an engulfing candle. And then left a Bessie here going into Thursday. Friday, we just institutional order flow entry drill very tinily into this BISI and then expanded way higher, right, into this daily SIBI over here to the left, right? That price had left open, right, on the way down. And so that has now been filled. It hasn't been filled all the way, right? There's still a portion of that left open. So looking to see that get filled in sometime this week, especially since we're still bullish. And then ultimately taking out this high over here that I talked about on the weekly. Now on the 4 hour, you can see not too much movement, right? Starting off the week, right? We're kind of just like sluggishly moving higher with every 4 hour candle that's running lower, really running lower just to go higher again. And wicking, back into old important levels like this 4 hour order block right here. And then price then ultimately closed, below the main threshold of this 4 hour order block, right? Which was indicating to me possible weakness in hindsight. And then we had a SIBI that formed that price came back into volume imbalance that we touched, and then we slammed lower going into the AM session of Wednesday. Took out all these relative equal highs here after these like power drive moves. Took out these relatively equal lows. Sorry, it came into that daily busy. Then immediately started to rebound higher. Broke market structure, but this candle's high here going to Wednesday. Left the large gap, and then a lot of consolidation going to Thursday. We wicked higher. Took out this previous day high here, I believe. And took out this previous candle's high, wicked into it, but then came slammed lower into this 4 hour fair value gap, tapped the daily BISI here I just formed, and then continued higher going into Friday, forming the high of the week here, pretty much in the PM session of Friday, and then came back into the range. On the 1 hour, very similar story to the 4 hour, right? Like we just are making a series of higher highs, right? If we purge lower, we're just running higher, right? So continue to make a series of higher highs. A lot of relative equal highs here. Our price ultimately took out and then started to kind of break down, which looked like some pretty decent weakness. There was no break in market structure here yet until we came back into this 1 hour IFPG BISI right here. It came into that and then slams lower, broke market structure. But really, this was just a run against the trendline liquidity below here, these LRRs. Came back into the daily BISI, but also came into the upper half of this 1 hour BISI right here, which ultimately price rejected from, created a 1 hour bullish order block, dug into this 1 hour SIBI a little bit, right? And finding some bullish support, right, on some old new week opening gaps as well, and then continuing higher pretty much for the rest of the day, and then taking out all these relative equal highs here. So you can see we ran against this range just to come back up here, start to expand higher after we closed well above this candle's high. That trickled all the way into Wednesday overnight, slammed higher going to Thursday AM, broke market structure lower here, but this is really just to tap that daily BISI. Okay, similar to what we saw here. We're coming lower just to run higher because why? We're in a market maker buy model on the 1 hour to head over to some daily liquidity pools. And so price runs against this range, right? Creates a very nice bullish candle here, taps institutional order for entry trail, runs higher, comes one lower one more time, about around the constant encroachment of this 1 hour BISI, and then runs higher again, going to Friday AM. Expanding pretty much, very well above this candle's high here, finding support on this breaker, and then running higher. Yeah, look at that nice breaker support that we found, like coming in the upper half of that, leaving this gap open, and then price ran higher, creating a 1 hour bullish order block, came into it, tapped the previous day high one more time, and then came to that daily inefficiency, taking out that daily high, ultimate target for the week. And then wicks above this candle's high going to 2 p.m. starts breaking down lower. Because it was Friday, we couldn't. I actually took a short here. I wanted to see price expand lower back into TJF range. Also nice relative equal lows here. But and this is a daily SIBI level that price had not touched before, and so it was fresh, very strong level that price could be rejecting from. But it's Friday after a very large range week, and so that last couple hours of the trading day can be pretty finicky, no matter how good the setup looks like. So you just have to be a little bit more careful. So pulled out, a little bit early here, where you can see price did start breaking down once you started the new week. But anyway, this has been the weekly log. Hopefully this helpful. Catch you guys in the next video.